Vice Chairman.
Thank you again for being here. It's my belief that the Communist Party of China isn't simply a competitor of the United States, but that they're engaged in a zero-sum game, that they seek to grow at our expense and ultimately to displace us as the world's most powerful and influential nation in every realm. Do you agree with that assessment? Do you share that same view?
Sure. Senator Rubio, I see China as perhaps our greatest strategic competitor. We know that they go after U.S. critical technologies using a whole of government and a comprehensive approach. We know that they use the traditional methods such as espionage, but we also know that they work with academia. They leverage the seams in our systems, whether it be the CFIUS reviews or export controls, and they take advantage of those. So I absolutely agree that we are facing a significant challenge with China.
Yeah, but and I get that they're a challenge and that they're not our only global competitor, or certainly our most. I guess the question really is, are they engaged in a zero-sum game, in your view? You don't have to agree with my view. I'm just wondering, do you agree that they seek to displace us to become the world's most powerful country, as opposed to simply being a competitor that wants to reach parity?
Senator, that is a very good question. It's a complex one, and I do think that there is a great reason for concern that they do have an aim of displacing the U.S. Economic superiority, and I think for that reason it's all the more important that OIA makes sure that it provides the best strategic analysis that it can to the Secretary, and if confirmed, I will ensure that OIA will do that.
So is there anything in the time that you've been working in that position, to the extent you can divulge it obviously in this setting, that leads you to be more cautious about that assessment than I've been? I mean, I've made a pretty straightforward pronouncement, and that is China is involved in a zero-sum game in which they believe either they win or we win, but we can't both benefit. Is there anything that you've seen or come across that gives you some pause in reaching the same conclusion in such terms?
Senator, thank you very much for that question. I think that is probably one that is better reserved for a classified conversation, and I would be more than happy to come back and talk to you and your staff about that question.
Okay, so, all right, so putting aside anything in your work, I just want to be fundamentally clear, you don't, what I just said about the zero-sum game, you obviously acknowledge that that's a concern, and you acknowledge that they're a significant, powerful competitor, but you're not able to say, as I have said, that they're involved in a zero-sum game, at least not in this setting?
So, Senator, yes, I think I would agree with everything that you've just said. We absolutely see them as perhaps our greatest strategic competitor, and they are, at least sitting within my role right now, they are the priority of the ODNI and of the intelligence community in terms of how we are placing our resources and trying to get at the challenge.
All right, let me ask you, related to that question, the Chinese laws require companies to turn over information to the Chinese state, and the CCP, is clearly blurring the military and civilian sector through this military-civil fusion strategy. Given that, is there any meaningful distinction, for example, at this point between Chinese state-owned entities and what they claim to be private companies, given the reach? In essence, no matter how private you think you are, under Chinese law, if the Communist Party tells you, we need your data, we want your information, you have to do this, they have to do it or they don't exist as a company anymore. At this point, is there any real distinction when it comes to the purpose of reviewing investments and things of that nature?
Senator, if I understand your question correctly, are you asking if there is truly a distinction between the state-owned enterprises and a company that may put itself out as a private
Correct.
Chinese company? I think that while there may be some validity to making that distinction, I think what we ultimately have to realize is that the Chinese government has a number of levers over companies that may put themselves out as being private, and there are requirements for to go back to seek certain approvals from the government in order to seek outbound investments in the United States or in countries like our allies in Europe. And so I think I almost wonder to the extent sometimes whether it's a distinction without a difference because of the nature of the Chinese laws, as you pointed out.
Right. Okay, thank you.